So happy Friday, everybody. So I thought we'd start out with, I told a story last week about my shaker fruit. So I brought my shaker fruit. So here's the lemon. It looks pretty real unless you look at the little tag there. But if you turn it around,
Ah,
I've got a lemon. I've got an orange. Looks, again, pretty realistic if you don't see that little logo. Gotta love the banana. This is the one my mom was like, that banana never gets brown. She said, I think I would like that. I'm like, Mom, it's not a real banana. And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, and she's just like, oh, brother, she should have known, right? And, and then I've got an apple. Okay, again, looks pretty real. I actually have two bananas. So last night at my little band class, I showed up with, I think last week I had the lemon and the orange, and this week I showed up with the banana and something else. I can't remember, the apple, I think. And I have this part, where I'm in the back doing this. So anyway, what they don't know is I'm going to order, I looked on Amazon and they have this little thing that it's like a headband and it's got fruit on it. It's like $11. I was like, oh, that's worth $11. So I'm going to order a fruit head, and when I play the song, I'm going to put it on. I know the director is just going to be like, hopefully it won't mess her up or whatever. I might have to do it in rehearsal because I'm afraid to do it at the concert. I don't want to throw things off, but I think that'll be funny. And they're on these they're kind of like your hats that you have, Joanne. They're on these little springs. So like these pineapples and stuff moving around. I think that'll be kind of fun. Hi, Barb. How are you?
can I ask everybody the magic question?
Sure.
Does anybody remember me wearing eyeglasses the past two times, or did you tape anything that would have shown our little pictures in the corner to see if I had them on?
I can send you the videos and you can watch them. But I won't be able to go back and watch the whole thing. But I can send you the links to them if you want to go back. There's
great. I just went to the museum. I went to the restaurant we ate at. I crawled under the tables. Can't find it. This is my second pair of glasses that I've lost this year, and I just got these 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you the links of the last, I have all of them. And I always post them as unlisted, so they're not public. But if you have the link, you can go to it. So you're the only ones who have access to it. I've thought about making it public because I think people might like our classes, but I'm protecting your privacy, so it's not public. It's on Facebook, but nobody can see it except for you guys. So just so you know that.
We'd be famous.
Yeah, well, if people want that, we can talk about it later or whatever, and post a few of them because I think people would like what we talk about. But okay, so we're going to jump right in. So I have a couple of things that came up this week that I thought were really cool. And so I'm going to share my screen, a couple of videos that just come across. I find things in different ways. So there's this new young kid that I've been watching, and he's a jazz player. And that's interesting because, jazz is kind of an older art form and not a lot of young people are doing it, or if they are, they're not doing it at this level. He's obviously practicing, I think I read 8 hours a day. He's 18 or 19 years old, and he's kind of like a young Buddy Rich, and I believe he's in New York. So anyway, I thought I would show you a recent video of his that I think is quite impressive. He's got a very unique style, and he has an amazing thumb. He plays traditional grip, and so anyway, let's just watch a little bit of it. I think you'll like it. Oops. There we go. All right, so let's see. Hopefully it will stop there and won't go on to the next video. So, couple of interesting things. You saw, whoops, I was afraid that was going to happen. Hang on, guys. It goes to the next video. Okay, let's get rid of that. So his name is Greyson Nekrutman, or Nekrutman. I don't know how he pronounces his last name. But he's, I think, only 18 or 19 years old. And you see he's got that, he's playing traditional grip, but he's got that thumb going like crazy. He does a lot of singles. And that was pretty amazing with only 4 drums, right? You don't need this big, massive drum set to do amazing things. He was doing a lot of crossovers. He did a couple of chokes. Then he got quiet. You know, he used dynamics, which kept it interesting. It didn't go on and on and on. Kind of short, but definitely doing a lot of stuff between the hands and the feet. And then he went back just to that nice little groove, that little jazz beat. Anyway, he's making a name for himself kind of through social media, really. And he plays in New York a lot. But he's been, through COVID, he became really popular. He just started putting videos out kind of just to look at himself play and to try to critique himself and get better. And kind of it went crazy. He does a few instructional videos where he kind of talks about his technique and how to develop it and all of that kind of stuff. So that was the first video I thought you'd be interested in, and I'll share these links with you later. You can watch them again. So this next one might be, can't remember. Well, let me share my screen again. Oh, this is him with another drummer. Let me see if I can get it bigger. With brushes. Kind of cool. Oops. Trying to make it bigger. I'm making it worse. Now I don't know what I'm doing here. Okay, hang on. Let me get this right. Sorry, y'all. Somehow I went to the split screen thing. How do I get it back? Alright, wait a minute. This is terrible. Let me start over. Let me get rid of these other two. Okay, I think I'll send it to you. Hopefully you got to see that. I tried to make it bigger. Were you able to see that? Were you able to see him fanning? You weren't able to see it?
See, we couldn't see it, but we could hear it. It was
good. Okay.
Yep.
Let me just do a little bit more of that, because I really want you to see. He's doing this crazy stuff with his brushes where they're showing overhead shots, and he's kind of fanning his brush back and forth. I'm sorry. Here, let's do this one more time, because I really want you to be able to.
Can a child with autism play drums well?
You know, people always think that, and I've tried to teach kids that were either ADHD or autistic, and I think You know, it's interesting. I have personally not had good luck with that because their ability to focus is not there. And everybody thinks, drum is so physical and you're like beating the drums and everything, but there's a lot of cerebral stuff going on. And if somebody's already got issues with focus, and I have not had good success. I know that there are people in rock climbing. I've seen some really interesting documentaries on rock climbing, especially free climbers. These are people who climb thousands of feet without a rope. And there's some really cool documentaries on some guys that, didn't do well in school. Their parents didn't know what to do with them because they couldn't sit and do schoolwork. They couldn't focus, but yet you put them on a climbing rock where like every move, if you mess up, you basically fall and die. They go all the way to the top, so like there's something in the brain that we don't know a lot about. So they are able to focus at times. That's hyper focused. Most of us would, a couple of moves and we'd be down already. They're able to go hundreds of moves stepwise, thinking several steps ahead. But in music, my personal experience is when I've tried to teach kids that had learning disabilities, it's just like learning anything, and I've tried different methods. I've tried, visual, I've tried auditory, I've tried both, I've tried tactile, and just, they can get the basics, but they never really, they don't read music, they don't, they've had a lot of difficulty, but maybe there are other people who've had better luck.
Okay, I just thought autistic kids like to repeat things like crazy.
Yeah,
do the same thing over and over again. So I just wondered.
Yeah, they're great at things like I've known a bunch of kids growing up that had like memorized, at age 4, they knew all the states, all the capitals of all the states, lots of countries, memorized the flags, knew the presidents in order, forward and backward. They can do that sort of thing, but with music, I don't know. It seems to be a little bit different. I don't know what it's interesting though. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I finally have it here. So let me start over here. He's even using his elbow to kind of compress the drum a little bit. So let's see. Hopefully you can see this a little bit this time. Okay, so I think you get the idea. I'll send it to you, but amazing stuff, all kinds of stuff, and it's kind of fun with the two of them kind of going back and forth. They were trading what's called fours, 4 measures, and then the other person does 4, and then they kind of were overlapping a little bit and just really watching each other, and then they started kind of playing the same thing. It's just kind of fun to watch, the different styles. A lot of fancy brushes. Brushes are, a lot of drummers, when they first learn about brushes, they're like, oh, the song's going to be a ballad. It's going to be boring. And, 1, 2, 3. But you can see the brushes can be quite exciting. And they can do all kinds of amazing stuff. He does a lot of single stroke rolls. That's where you're just kind of going back and forth with singles rather than doubles. Rock, we do a lot of doubles. So anyway, I thought you would enjoy that. The other one that I wanted to show you, let me just stop sharing for a second and pull this next link up. Okay, actually, let me share first. That's where I got into trouble last time. So I'm going to share again and then click the link. All right, and I can't remember what this was, but it came across me this week and I was like, oh, I think you guys would like this.
Good morning and welcome to video number 25 of me growing out my beard. I'm sure most of you have seen the viral video going around TikTok of the drum gyroscope. So this band program is Westfield High School in Virginia, and I was able to get in contact with their band director, and they're going to let me play on their gyroscope. And hopefully I don't suck too much at it. Also, most of you who watch this channel probably also know that I am trying desperately to get back on the show America's Got Talent. I went on that show last year and failed in the audition round, so I'm trying to go back on and do even better. So I'm going to try to record some playing on this gyroscope and send that into AGT. But before we get into all that, make sure that you click that subscribe button, ring that Liberty Bell, and click that like button. I will be doing a fan collab at 200,000 subscribers. If you are interested in participating, please follow the link in the description. Okay, let's go get dizzy.
So we've seen this guy before.
The creator of the gyroscope is Ron Thorpe from Too Cool Percussion. The first crazy spinning drum contraption that he built was for United Percussion in 2007 with their show Extreme. But then United wanted to one-up their previous show, so in 2008 they built the gyroscope. And I actually marched in this show, and no, I didn't get to use the gyroscope at all, because Bird was really, really tall, and the gyroscope is kind of a pain to adjust. So huge shout out to the parents and band director of Westfield High School for helping me adjust this entire rack to fit my body. Ready? Did you take the bar out? The pin came out. Not bad. We want to spin it that way? Yeah. It's spinning pretty well. Oh, yeah. Seems okay to me. Yeah, I think we can probably do it. All right. I'll try to get on. Yeah. Gyroscope, take one. Oh no! I was worried about that happening. It's okay, it's industrial speed. Gyroscope, take 2. Here we go.
So I'll send the rest of it to you. It's hilarious to watch, but the reason they put the word tick, whenever you hit a rim, that's like a mistake in drum corps. And so this, I actually saw that show, the very first one that they showed, the previous one, and this is WGI. We've talked about WGI, Winter Guard International. So this was like a group that performed at a very high level. And anyway, so this thing is kind of a contraption, and it was interesting because this guy's a great player, but when you're, upside down and everything and trying to do all these crossovers and all of this and dizzy, he does at the end finally play pretty well, just practicing. And then they actually put in a couple of the kids who are used to it, and they played their show and did really well. But I just thought it was interesting, and he's hilarious. He's the one who was in the military and had this little thing on the side going with YouTube, and they didn't really like it because I think he was making money. He was getting ready to retire, and he was looking for, what do I do next, and this will propel me into these funny drum videos. But he had done it on his own time, but it was on the military base, and he might have used some of their equipment or whatever, but he was a musician, and that's kind of what he did. But anyway, he's fun to follow, so if you ever want just to watch funny drum things, he's the one who did that Hawaii 5-0 where he plays like on 500 drums and runs around. And the way he filmed that, he'd have like 10 drums or whatever, he'd film himself playing it, and then he'd go and set them all up and then film that and then put it all together, because he really didn't have 500 drums, but it made it look like he had. So anyway, that was another video that I thought was kind of fun. And then the last one that I came across that I thought would be drumming something, let's see, I can't remember what it was, but as I go through the week, I'm like, keep track of interesting things that I've discovered that I thought you all might like too. So I'm trying to remember what this one was. I think this could be a group of kids playing on chairs. Oh no, this is something else. Okay, I have that one too.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Playing Drums. Today we're covering one of my favorite chop out exercises, Suzie. If you enjoy our content, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Also check out playingdrums.com for all your practice tracks, merchandise, and to see some of the charities that we support. So in order to tell us a little bit about the history of Suzie, we're going to send it over to Candace Mall. Candace.
The exercise Suzie is not for the faint of heart. It's a chop out that was written by Tom Float for the Oakland Crusaders and made popular by the Anaheim Kingsmen in the 1980s. It really has stood the test of time. Learning to play Suzie slowly requires you to take a really good look at your technique, while playing it fast requires, well, that you have the chops.
Thanks, Candy. Like she said, today is going to be an exercise for the choppiest of drummers. It's an old school one called Suzie. Now, there's an old song that we sing that kind of helps us get the rhythm a little bit easier. It goes, if you knew Suzie like I knew Suzie, then you would like her too, like her too, like her too. If you knew Suzie like I knew Suzie, then you would like her too, like her too, like her too. So the pattern is So the first rudiment that we're going to look at when playing Suzie is the inverted flam tap. Using that same pattern, you have invert, invert, right? Whenever we have two accents in a row, we're going to play them as flams on the same hand, right? Likewise, later on, you're going to see like her too, like her too. We're going to play those as three accents on the same hand, but we're just going to alternate via invert. So it should look like this. If you knew Suzie like I knew Suzie, then you would like her too, like her too, like her too. You knew Suzie, then you would like her too, like her too, like her too. And that's pretty much it. That exercise is a good little warm-up on the hands, but it's not that easy to burn. If you want some extra credit, you can do things like putting cheeses on there. And for those who want the extra challenge, you can even do single, double, and triple paradiddles.
Okay, so anyway, I thought I'd share that with you. That's actually an exercise that my group that I'm involved with, my Troopers alumni group, that we're going to do as a warm-up. And actually, interestingly enough, of the 3 of those that he just demonstrated, the last one is actually the easiest, the paradiddle-diddles and the paradiddles. Those other things were called flams, where you have one hand high and one hand's low, and you strike almost at the same time. So if your right hand's high, that's called a right flam. If your left hand's high, that's called a left flam. A cheese is 2 things. It's a drag and a flam put together. So a drag, and actually I have my setup today, so it's kind of cool. I'm going to switch cameras for a minute so I can show you this view. Hopefully you all can see this, or I can show you the up view, or the view from up above. So I have my GoPro up above, so you can kind of see. Well, let's see here. Let me get in the right spots. Hopefully you can hear that too. And from this view over here. But anyway, so a flam is like this. So this is a right flam. This is a left flam. You can alternate flams. A drag is like a horse's gallop. And a diddle is kind of 2 of the same. So a cheese is something that is a flam, but it's also got a diddle. So it's a flam and a diddle combined. And that's kind of what he was doing there. Uh-oh, sorry about that. Let me get rid of that. I have to... Okay, so anyway, that's a great exercise. And then they were kind of talking about these things called inverts, and inverts are actually really hard. So we do these things called flam taps, where we do like a right flam and a tiny little tap, and a left flam and a tiny little tap. So it goes brat do, brat do, brat do, brat do. An invert is opposite. So instead of doing a right flam and a right tap, I do a right flam and a left tap. So those are called inverts, and they're a little bit more difficult. So anyway, I just thought that was a great exercise. The word chops means technique, basically, and so that they called it a chop out exercise, and it's for people to warm up in like a drum line. So I just thought, we have some really interesting. We started with the jazz drumming thing and some brushes, then we went to the tenor thing on a gyroscope, and then we went to a real technical, like drum corps kind of exercise. The last one that I wanted to share with you that I thought was really cool was the a piece of music that actually I purchased. It's one of those novelty things where they're playing on chairs, and the name of the tune is Sitz, S-I-T-Z, and it's a bunch of kids, so this is kind of like a music program in a school where they're, have class every day where they play percussion. And so let me just Google it really quick, because I think I can find it pretty easily. This was another thing that I thought would be kind of fun to look at. And if I can't get it quick, then I'll just send it to you. But, lots of variety in drumming stuff. And then we'll kind of open it up to something else. But these were the things that came up for me this week that I found interesting. Let's see if I can find it quickly. Here we go. All right, so am I still shared? No. Let me share again. Okay. Okay, so this is Sitz. Yeah. So really nice. So obviously these are kids. They've obviously practiced a lot. It's memorized, but it is written out. I actually have the music for it. I was going to do it with my percussion ensemble adults. And you notice the parts are a little bit different. So you're either playing a chair or you're playing a stool, and it's actually notated. It'll tell you the back of the chair, the right side of the chair, the left side of the chair, and it's really important that everybody plays where they're supposed to, otherwise you're going to whack somebody. You can see they were doing a lot of crossovers. They were playing on each other's instrument. They were playing the top of the instrument all the way down and opposite, and in the way that part's written, it's pretty much part, the odd numbers, the 1, 3, 5 people are together, and the 2, 4, 6 people are together. It's written for 6 people. And so, anyway, it was just kind of a fun thing. So, variety again, it's not just like, piano is piano, but drums are lots of things, or could be a lot of different things. I mean, there are some people who write for interesting things on piano where you actually open the piano up and pluck the strings, and there are some, even back in history, 100 years or more, there were people who wrote like that. They weren't very popular, but they wrote for, different ways to play an instrument, not just the usual way. So, but in drumming, we have a lot more variety because we've got drum set, we've got the marching stuff, we've got percussion. You could play on interesting instruments that, like mufflers like we've done and buckets, and then mixing and matching, and so that's really kind of fun. So let's see what questions or observations or comments. Let's start with Joanne. So what did you like about the videos that we saw?
I enjoy seeing the different things you can. I mean, as I said, drumming, I think, is one of the most interesting and fascinating instruments because there's so much variety you can do with it. And I just love it. I don't know. I just find it. And it was nice to see those 2 little girls at the end in the last one.
Yes. It is becoming a thing. If you watch TV on commercials, anytime there's a band, especially with kids, there's a girl drummer nowadays. I mean, in my day, that was totally unheard of. I was lucky that I got to do what I did because I know a lot of people my age that were women didn't have that opportunity, that their parents squashed it or the school squashed it. Yeah. And I remember very distinctly being a 4th grader going to band night where you got to try the different instruments. You'd go around and you'd try the trumpet, and you'd try the trombone, you'd try the flute, try the clarinet, and then you select an instrument, and that was going to be like 6th grade band or whatever, or 4th grade band, I guess it was. And I remember saying, well, I pretty much knew already I wanted to play the drums. I already knew I liked drums. I'd liked drums since I was really tiny. And there were a couple of teenage bands in my neighborhood where they'd practice in their garage, and I remember peeping in the window, watching them like, wow, this one guy had this red sparkle drum set because sparkle was the thing back then, and I always wanted a blue sparkle, and I ended up getting one finally. But I remember just looking in, and they were probably like 12 or 14, and they were probably terrible, but it just was so cool. So I knew I wanted to play drums, and so I said, I'd like to play drums, and they said, well, don't you want to play clarinet? Don't you want to play flute? And I said, no. And, they let me, and I ended up playing 4th grade band, 5th grade, 6th grade. In 6th grade, I got a snare drum, a blue sparkle snare drum, and then, I started getting private lessons, and then that's where things really started happening. So I showed up to 7th grade and tried out and made first chair. And of course, 9th grade boys are not really into a 7th grade girl, and there's like 20 guys in the drum section. So they would do things like light my hair on fire. Back then you could carry a Bic lighter, and I remember playing and smelling something, and it's like I had really, really long hair, and I was on fire. Of course I didn't want to say anything because then you really get it bad. So it's just like you try to put yourself out while you don't mess up so the band director notices, But anyway, the funny thing was by the time I got to high school, these were the same guys that I knew by the time I got to 10th grade auditions, same thing was going to happen, because back then 9th grade was still junior high and 10th grade was high school. So I show up in 10th grade thinking, oh gosh, here we go, trying out for band, and I got all these 12th graders now. And again, same thing happened. So I got first chair again. But by then, people started on the side coming over, and they'd be like, Karen, how do you play this? How does this go? Can you count this for me? You know, and so I became their secret friend. And then finally it was just like, okay, she's not going away. And, you know, so we either have to befriend her, or, you know, high school marching is not going to be a fun time for all. So they ended up being my best friends. And I'm still like really good friends with a lot of people on Facebook and things like that. But so I don't know how I got off on that story, but yeah, girls did not play drums. And I know so many women, middle-aged women, that like in this group that I'm a part of, this Facebook group called Drummer Girls United, there's 7,000 female drummers from all over the world, and many of which are extremely popular and, you know, doing great things in drumming, and it's their sole living. And, but there's so many more that have the story that I always wanted to, you know, like you, Joanne. I always wanted to, but I didn't have the opportunity. I was discouraged. It wasn't allowed. And it's just so refreshing now that it's not only allowed, but it's cool. And all the shows, when you watch commercials, I can name them off. I mean, I see all these young girls playing, and actually this contest that I've been a part of, Hit Like a Girl, is really promoting that, you know, that it's okay to be a girl drummer, and in fact, it's really cool. And I think women bring a different perspective to drums, because it's just a different approach, I think, in some ways. And even growing up when I was young, I would get comments like at the jazz festival, your drummer has really tasty fills, and what that means is just, you know, it's very thoughtful and very, you know, you bring a different sort of approach. And so I think that it's going to be exciting to see where it all ends up. So, but anyway, so yeah, nice observation that, you know, it's okay. And so yeah, what did you notice, Jasmine, or what did you like about the videos that we saw?
Well, I liked seeing all those kids. The kids are so good. It's so impressive. Like that percussion ensemble clip that you sent us last week. I mean, those kids are so good, and they make it so fun, because see, now I want one of those blue spiky hair, wig things like Sonic the Hedgehog or something that is like, oh, those are fun, you know. Yeah. I mean, it's just so super. You've got all those little kids that are future drum corps and future Blue Man Group. You had some future Blue Man Group. It was great. Yeah, it is cool. And I think kids are, you know, unique. They learn, you know, they remember things, and they don't question it. You know, adults, a lot of times, you know, I've had a lot of adult students, and you know, they always have an excuse. I didn't practice. And yeah, I know life goes on, but like, it's a miracle when you do. You know, you can tell when they practice, and you're just like, wow, that was great. What was different this week about last week? Oh, well, I practiced. Well, gosh, what a miracle. You know, just like people, when you make it, my dad always said, when you make something look easy, you know you're accomplished. Because like, he used to watch golf, and he was a really good golfer. And if you look at golf, I mean, it looks pretty easy, right? But like, to get that ball, you know, those 20-foot putts, that is not easy. That's thousands and thousands of hours. But all you see is the swing, and the ball goes, and it's like, oh, I could do that. And then you go try it, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a lot to this. But it's like anything, you get good at what you do. So if you spend time doing something, you get good at it. But a lot of people like think it looks easy, and that's, you know, that's nice, because that's kind of a compliment. Then it makes you, you know, it's like, oh, I made it look easy, even though it isn't easy. So that's kind of a cool thing. But you're always trying to get better and learn new things. But kids are so open to trying stuff, and they obviously practiced a lot to memorize that. And you could tell they were concentrating. They were having fun, but they were concentrating a lot on, you know, I don't want to get my hands whacked, and I don't want to be in the wrong place. But yeah, it's fun to watch. And the thing is, you know, you mentioned about future musicians. Even if these kids are not going to go on to be
drummers, this is going to help them in life. So music programs that get cut around the country is just, and art programs and physical ed programs, it's a shame, because what it teaches you is teamwork, how to deal with failure, how to keep trying. You don't get it the first time, you try again, you try again, you try again. I mean, it teaches you life skills, because that's life. You have to work, you have to communicate, you have to be able to organize, time manage. So even if you're not going to be a drummer, they might be whatever they're going to be. They've learned something from this experience that they can take with them, that they'll use for the rest of their life. And I think that's even more important, because chances are not every young kid who plays baseball is going to be a pro athlete. It's just a fact. In fact, it's extremely rare. And the same thing goes really with music. But you could play at church, or you could play, just for yourself, for your own sanity, or just to gain those life skills that are translatable to anything you do. So anyway, I'm in a preachy mode today, so I'm preaching to the choir. So Barb, what did you like about the videos, or what did you
Well, I enjoyed
observe?
seeing the kids. I don't know why, after seeing the first player, I thought about autism. But I have a kid that's up the street from me, and he started doing African drums in the park. We have a drumming group once a month, and everybody in town goes down there with something to beat on. And he's been in that for years, and he's autistic, but he repeats himself a lot when he talks. And so I don't know what plugged me into thinking that, just watching that one performer, there was something about it. And then
Yeah.
I love the chair thing. That one I loved.
Yeah, and I think, African drumming is different in that it is extremely repetitive and very meditative. It's over and over. So I could see, an autistic person gravitating to that, whereas other kinds of music are not as repetitive. They're constantly changing. And so, but you're right. I think for African drumming, and plus you can kind of play your own thing and fit in. You don't have to play exact, like in a drum line, everybody's playing exact. Same stick heights, same rights and lefts, everything has got to be perfect. But in something like African drumming, you could even just be playing back and forth and fit in. And so I think that might be true of that style of drumming. That might be true. So you're right about that.
And I love the chair thing. Having been an art teacher, somehow that was more visual, and I just really liked it. And I also looked at those kids, and it reminded me when I had my little tiny dog, and I couldn't get her trained to do anything. And I was in the kitchen and watching this elephant, him telling this big circus show, telling this elephant to do things. And I said, well, they can do that. I certainly can do something with her. And I held a cookie up to her. And that's the only thing she ever did in 17 years. And she immediately sat up to that cookie and did it from that point on. And so somehow, I don't know what it was about that triggered me. I think it was just seeing someone that young. Well, like if they can do it, I should be able to learn something,
Yeah, it is just repetition, slowing things down. There's sort of a process, and somebody who can guide you and be like your coach really is, because you never want to give somebody something that's beyond them, because they're just going to get frustrated and it's no fun for anybody. So you just want to know, okay, what's the next step and how do we approach that step, and then get them comfortable and have it. Fun is a big part of it. Like a lot of people I've talked to that learn music as kids, they're like, oh yeah, I took piano lessons for 6 years, but I don't remember anything and I hated it. And that's just so sad that was their experience with music, because I don't think it has to be like that. I think that, you want to trick them into having fun, but that they're doing what they're supposed to get better. And that's the key, is to have somebody who knows how to, trick you into basically you're practicing, but you don't know that you are, and you're getting better. And so, anyway, yeah, teaching methods are important. And, you know, I think it turns a lot of people off, unfortunately, of music. And I think the same is true of like math. I've heard other people like, you know, I hate math. Well, tell me why you hate math. Well, I was never good in math. Well, what makes you think you weren't good in math? Well, my teacher said I got a D and I wasn't, you know, and if you go back, maybe they were never bad at math. Maybe they just didn't have the right instruction, or somebody wasn't patient, or it wasn't taught to them in a way they could. Maybe they're a visual learner. They had to see it. They can't just, you know, so who knows? But it's interesting. It's just sad that I think a lot of people are shut out of music because of a bad experience, and or afraid, you know, I don't want to learn music. I don't want to learn how to read because I tried that once and it's too hard. I just want to play by ear, and that's fine. But I think sometimes just the way that you can do it, you can undo some of that stuff. Okay, Molly, what did you think?
I have a question. That Greyson guy, you said he's got a great thumb. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so I have a video, and I'm going to try to find it, and I'll send it to you, where he's actually explaining his technique, because he has first of all, he plays traditional grip, you know, which a lot of jazz players do, and we've talked about the origins of that. It's like from hundreds of years ago, where when you were marching, you know, the carriers weren't like level, they were hanging off your body in a sling, and you were marching to like war or something like that. It was a military thing, and if you played like what you might think is a normal grip, matched grip is what we call it, you'd smash your hands on the rim. So they turned it around and they started playing like this. Well, it kind of became tradition, and the early jazz players all played that way, but then they started kind of, when they would do their fill, you'd see them switch around and go back. Even Buddy Rich did that because it lends itself to different, your crossovers are a little bit easier and smoother than to try to do this whole thing. And even Greyson switches a little bit. And so his technique, like a lot of times, and I don't play traditional, because when I started taking drums, my teacher it was sort of like the Beatles had just arrived, and we're getting away from tradition. This is new, and I'm not going to teach you that way. I'm going to teach you matched grip, because this is the future. And so I learned that way, and I never learn traditional, and so for drum corps they still play traditional. So I played tenor drums, which are the ones that this guy on the gyroscope played, because and all that's true of a lot of drum corps. If you're good enough to be on the drum line but you don't play traditional, you're going to be on the tenors. And because actually, quite honestly, this is my opinion, but I really believe it's true, the snare part's easier, because in college, I played high school and college, I was center snare, and I played matched grip, and all of us did. And the parts, you're only on one drum. So the parts are pretty much the same, but it's on one drum. When you're playing tenors, you got 6 drums. You're playing the same part, but you're playing it all over the place. So it's a lot more complicated. You have to memorize the patterns. I have a set of tenors back here that I've been practicing on, actually, for the alumni corps that I'm doing, and maybe I'll pull something out and show you a video or something of that. But anyway, it's a lot harder to move around. You have to memorize the patterns. So Greyson, instead of playing just kind of like normal, when you watch people play traditional, they kind of have their hand like this. What he does when he's doing those fast rolls, he's got this pivot on his thumb, and basically his thumb is just doing this. And he even talks about it. At a certain point, he's playing wrist, and then it becomes fingers. So for matched grip players, you're using fingers to propel. Your wrist is not moving, it's fingers when you start going really fast. So you start out your wrist. You never want to be doing arm. That's just too much work. You're not going to be able to go fast. So you want it to be from the wrist. It should be comfortable. And then it goes to the fingers when you're playing fast. And then for traditional grip, he has this pivot thing where he basically just does this a lot with his thumb. And the stick is just like floating almost, but he's got control. So everything he's doing, it's not out of control. He knows when to start and stop, but he kind of goes into this mode, and he kind of explains that. And that's kind of unique, because most traditional players are using kind of like a combination of these other fingers. It's not so much thumb. It's more down here. And I'm not a traditional player, so I can't explain it, because I don't know how it feels, but like he definitely talks about its thumb for him. And so it was an interesting, and that's why he, goes so fast. But, and it's very, very fine motions, like this, just hovering like a hummingbird. Because if you think about a hummingbird, they can just hover and they're going so incredibly fast, but they're not expending energy. When you're playing, at a rock stadium and you want everything to be big, you have to simplify your playing because you can't play as fast. So everything is kind of simplified down, but it's all about the visual. Whereas you're playing jazz, everything's tight and in. Notice his drums, he only really had the typical jazz setup there, but he was all over that set and he was super lightning fast. And even with brushes, he was doing all kinds of little fluttering and side to side and getting all kinds of really cool sounds and effects. He was going up the cymbal, up, down, instead of just down. He was sweeping, circling, all kinds of different things. So anyway, I don't know if that explained the question, but I'll send that video. I'll find it so that you can watch him explain his technique. So let's see. How are we doing on time here? Oh, we have 7 minutes. So did you like doing, I know we didn't play, but I just thought some of these videos might be kind of cool. So let's see. Suggestions, I guess, for what people want to learn about or talk about next week. Let's see. Let's start with you, Joanne. Anything that I'm trying to keep you guys surprised every week. You never know what's coming.
I really enjoyed that today. That was great, and I like your shirt.
Oh, thank you. Yes, so I finally wore a new one. So I finally have dug out my clothes, and because I was kind of living out of a suitcase for a while, but now I kind of found my clothes, and so I'm like, wow, I have all these new clothes that I haven't seen for 2 months, and so I'm pulling them out. So hopefully you'll start to see some new shirts because I have a million of them, but I wear the same 20. So yeah, thank you. So this is my pink. It's going to snow today. What's that?
Are they all cotton and linen where you have to iron them?
No, I don't iron anything. They probably need to be ironed, but I don't iron them.
I want to see all that stuff on your wall again. I see it in the background.
You know what I'm going to do for next week? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take pictures of my studio, and I'm going to put it together in a PowerPoint, and then I'm going to walk you through my studio. So rather than to take this and try to struggle, and it's hard to walk through here, I'm going to take pictures of everything, and we're going to do a tour. But that's my percussion wall, and I probably won't put any more up because I don't want it to be too crazy. But I like that because I know where things are, and I can find them and pull them off the wall. I don't want to keep them in a bag that I never see. So anyway, I like to decorate. This is my one room I get to decorate. So I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, another basement.
It's a nice big room. Had it just finished just for me. So this is where I even have a bed in here. I can pretty much never leave. I need a microwave and a refrigerator, and I am good. So
do you have any windows?
No, and I don't want windows in a studio. I want a deadbolt on the door and no windows. It's like Fort Knox, because this is my whole life is in this room, and it's taken me a while to get everything. You don't get everything all at once. This is 50 plus years of collecting things from all over the world, and so let's see. So Jasmine, what would you like to do next week?
I'd like to see your fruit headband.
Okay, you will, because I'm going to order it and you will get to see it. So the fruit, I'm writing this down. Okay, and let's see. Barb, what else would you, I'm going to do the tour for you.
Yes.
Anything else?
We haven't played anything in a while. I never thought I'd say it. I'd go back to strawberries and apricots or whatever.
Okay, I'll get something for us to play. What I'm kind of thinking would be good is like, we have an hour, so it's kind of like every 15 minutes do something else. So maybe what I'll do each week is, the video of the week, what we're going to play for the week, so that way there'll be kind of something for everybody. We'll try to do a little bit more of that. This week was like video week, but next week I'll get us playing a little bit more. Maybe I'll send it to you ahead of time so you can look at it a little bit. And Molly, any questions, comments?
I would like, Jasmine mentioned jazz before. I would like you to do something on New Orleans second line drumming. Not just
Yeah.
second line patterns. I mean,
Stanton Moore.
they're way
Okay.
complicated. You could simplify it down so we could do a little one,
Okay, yeah, we'll do some Stanton Moore second line. That's a good, we haven't talked about that. So good, we've got some good ideas. I'm glad you all have ideas. It helps me to come up and keep things fresh rather than to try to come up with, what are we going to do this week? And so this is always good. It's fun for me too, because I get to learn, and I've learned stuff as well. So that's awesome. Let's see, I think we have 2 minutes, but I think we're probably going to end. I will send you the videos, Barb, so you can look at the glasses. And I will send you all these that we did today and maybe a little homework. And we'll see you all next time with a new shirt and a fruit headband.
Thank you so much. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye, everybody.
We should get
Bye-bye.
involved in politics too, because your speech about them dropping the arts and music was perfect.
Yeah.
Well, one of these, one of the things I might ask you in the email is if I can release a few of these, because I think some of them people would actually be interested to hear about. So I don't know. You can let me know later if you're okay with it. We can always take your, in the future, take your names off, your last names off, or something like that. Block out your face or whatever. Put a black thing across your eyes, right? Like they do in all the medical pictures. I love that when they just block your eyes like that. Like you can't recognize a person when their eyes are blocked out, right? All right, y'all. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Be safe.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.